Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Today we are moving into a new lesson which would take a few weeks to cover. I'll surely not be able to finish in this semester, but this is one of the most important lectures in the chapter of Rupa. The topic goes as Rupa Samutthana. Rupa Samutthana. Samutthana means cause of origin. Rupa Samutthana means the causes of origin of corporeality or matter. Now we know that human beings or living beings are constituted with two main elements, Nama and Rupa, mentality and materiality. Out of them, we are discussing about materiality, the material stuff, the corporeal stuff. According to the Theravada tradition, this corporeality of living beings is made out of four main causes. One is karma, the past deeds that we have done. Then chitta, consciousness together with mental factors. Utu, the element of tejo. And then ahara, the element of nutriment. So these are the four major causes that produces rupa and affects the rupa as well. So then now what we have to look into this, how should we look into this concept is, now if you think about a human being or a living being, for instance, you think it is a living being. Now this body is made out of small particles according to the tradition. So these particles, some of them are produced by karma. All of them are mostly affected by karma in a living being. And also some are affected by mentalities. It includes chitta and cetasika both. Chitta plus cetasika. Then it's also affected by utu. Utu is, we normally say, tejo dhatu, element of tejo. Then it's also affected by oja or ahara, the element of nutriment which we have already discussed. So these are the four causes for the origin of rupa, and also they are necessary for the sustaining of the rupas. Now according to the tradition, if we zoom in, now we have already discussed, now if you take the group of rupas, santana or sarira, a body of rupas or santana which are interconnected with each other. Now when we look into this santana is made out of kalapa, clusters. Kalapas are made out of rupa, qualities, right? Qualities. So this is a body, a collection of kalapas. So kalapas are made out of certain material qualities. They are not things, they are not stuff, they are qualities. When they come together, they appear as stuff, or they appear as things. At the same time, now these kalapas, in terms of the sarira as well, their generation is called santati. Santati is the generation. I'll be using the Pali terms because it's quite easy, then it will be much easier to understand. So the generation of these kalapas are called santati. So I'll repeat again. Sarira or santana means a group of, when these rupas stay together collectively, they are called sarira or santana, bodies of corporeal bodies. They are made out of tiny particles. These particles are called kalapas. And those kalapas are made out of certain material qualities which are called rupa. Then their generation. Now this is in terms of their existence, like in terms of groups. Now in terms of generations, they are called santati. Generations. Right, generation. So now if we zoom in a body of an animal being, this is what we can find. We can find units, we can find qualities, and we can find generations of them. Then how these, now this is a general explanation. So these units, if you focus on units or generations, we can find these units of rupas, some are produced by karma. Some are produced by karma, which the beings have done in past lives. And some are momentarily produced by mentalities while the consciousness arises within us. Some are produced by the element of tejo, that is, we can say, the main reason for the corporealities, even in inanimate bodies, according to the Theravada, an element called tejo is producing this rupa. Even someone can argue that is it the energy that we call these days in the modern physics. Maybe there can be some relevance to that, because tejo is considered as the heat or coldness, which is very similar to a sort of an energy. Anyway, then the nutriment, a quality that exists in food or whatever we eat, also is capable in producing some type of rupa in our bodies. Now, if you think about in the modern science, perspective of the modern science, the animal beings, the living beings have come into this state, whom they are at the moment, due to evolution. So the human evolution and the animal evolution. So according to that, there is a specific theory or concept called random mutation. So it means normally offsprings of a certain being may have different appearances randomly. So for instance, a human may give birth to a one-eyed, someone who has just one eye, or someone has a strange feature to his parents, slightly changed features. So as a result, what happens, then they adapt to the environmental conditions. So the ones who most suits to the given environmental condition would sustain, the others would gradually extinct. So that is the normal theory of evolution. So this change of the rupa happens as a random phenomenon. It's called random mutation. But according to Buddhism, what we can see is if someone he's having a great defect in his body by birth, and also has special features, attractiveness, or some attractive features in his body, we normally attribute this to the karma. So it's in the philosophy, the Buddhist philosophy, we bring some kind of abnormal or strange hidden phenomenon, which is called karma, which affects the living beings. Even that is obvious, that is observable, that offsprings are not identical with their parents. So normally it would never be identical unless that is cloned, but still there should be some differences even in a clone, as I suppose. But it's obvious that the offsprings have different traits. Different means different traits from their parents. So changes in the DNA sequence or their rupa is caused mainly as a random, we call it random mutation. So instead of giving it to a random phenomenon, the Buddhism, in most of the cases, attribute it to karma. So that's why when someone has defects in the body, like someone is not having both eyes, or one eye, having only one eye, or having a one ear, or missing a part of his limbs, normally this would be called as a random mutation according to science, while Buddhism attribute this to karma, right? So this is a strange phenomenon that which cannot be verified in terms of scientific explanations, but what Buddhism agrees. Then mentalities, the effect of mentalities, that is also something which is obvious. We know that when our minds mental states come into certain levels, manifest certain attributes, it affects our body as well. There is a big argument about this, who triggers these mental states. According to the physicalism, it's some sort of a only material thing. Like brain is reacting due to the stimuli it gets from the environment, and as a result, it's only brain. The physical stuff is existing in the living being. So whatever mental state is an outcome is equal to a physical state. But according to some theories, like the dualist, they consider there is a different fundamental element which is called mind or consciousness. So physicalists attribute this consciousness to the functioning of the material thing. So we have three types of physicalisms, mainly behaviorism, identity theory, mind-brain identity theory, and also functionalism. According to them, it's only the material thing is functioning. The most famous out of them is functionalism, considering mind as like the software of a computer. The brain is like the hardware, mind is like the software. So it's just still is what is exactly existing is the hardware. So software is an outcome of this stuff. So it's called physical explanation. So according to that, what is acting, what is behaving is a physical stuff. But according to the Theravada traditions, according to Buddhist and most of the Eastern traditions, they consider about a separate element called consciousness that exists depending on the matter, but have its own existence. That is called dualism. So now all physicalists and dualists both agree on the fact that there are certain mental states. Some attribute these mental states to physical stuff, and some says no, mental stuff is different from physical stuff. That is the two main philosophies regarding the philosophy of mind. There is another branch called pluralism, which is not that much famous because they consider there are some other stuff, not only mind and matter. There are some more stuff in the world. So, but it's also always obvious to everyone that when the mental states change, when they come into an angry state or a happy state, it surely affects the body, and we can see great changes in our body when the mental states do change, right? So Buddhism stands with dualism. It's in the side of dualism. So according to Theravada tradition, certain changes that occur when our mood is changing. Now we know that when we get angry, our body gets heated, right? When we have strong lust, the body changes. At the same time, when we are happier, the body changes. So likewise, there are great effects. The fluctuation can be observed according to the change of the mentalities. So what the philosophers, the Theravadians say is, the mind which exists in this body, which exists depending on this body, affects the material stuff. And also it produces some new material stuff. Now, when we are talking about the origin of Rupa, we have to keep in mind, sometimes these causes produce the Rupa. At the same time, they do affect the Rupa. That we will be discussing at a later stage, how the effects can be found, how the karma is affecting, chitta is affecting. It's different from origin, bringing producing something. Anyway, now when the mind changes, we can observe great changes in our body. Another example is when we intend to walk, our body moves. When we intend to walk, our body moves. When we intend to lift our arms, the arm is lifted. Arm gets lifted. So this is also another way the Theravadians would explain how the mind is affecting the body. All the dualists say this. According to the mind, the body works. According to the mind, body works. The greatest problem, the greatest challenge the dualists have is because according to the dualism, which also falls into which Theravada also falls into, mind is immaterial. They are not extended. They are not stuff. So how could something which is not a material, something which is not extended, cause the movements in the body? Because we know if you want to move something, we have to enforce some force on this. Then only it will start to move. It will not just move out of nothing. So the question that comes is, if the mind is immaterial, if it is not extended, how can this bring physical movements? It's the greatest challenge the dualists have according to the philosophy. Now, Theravadians suggest that there is an immaterial thing called consciousness. This also produces some Rupa. With that help, all physical and verbal actions are done with the help of this Rupa. So, mentality is also affecting the Rupa. Karma is also affecting the Rupa. Then we come into the third origin of Rupa, Tejo Dhatu. Tejo Dhatu is either heat or coldness. This is the element which is responsible for the arising of Rupas in inanimate things as well. in inanimate things. So this Tejo Dhatu found in material clusters do produce new clusters. So this is how the generation of Rupa happens to exist. So how does this happen? What is the phenomenon is not explained. It just says, the literature just says the Tejo Dhatu can produces new material clusters, and it's also happening within our body. According to the modern science, material things are made out of energy. We know that energy and matter has a great relationship. It was also formulated into a form. It was put into a formula by the great scientist Albert Einstein. Is E equals to mc square, right? So there is a great relationship between energy and matter. So some may can think that is this Tejo Dhatu is some sort of energy which is existing, but according to the tradition, Tejo Dhatu can be found in the Kalapa. Another thing to consider is, now if you think about the explanation of heat or energy of heat according to science, heat is something, how do they explain? The definition is given when two objects have different temperatures, under certain conditions they normally come into the equal temperatures after some time. So the object which had higher temperature, heat would transfer from the object which had higher temperature into the object which had lower temperature. So we are even in science we are unable to show what the heat is. It's just a definition. How like for example, if you think about the mass, inertia mass has been explained, the resistance for the acceleration. So likewise, heat is something that transfers from a higher temperature object to a lower temperature object. So we cannot show what it is. So in the same way, if you think about Tejo Dhatu, now Rupa Kalapa, what we see in a Rupa Kalapa is the color. What we see in Rupa Kalapa is the color. What we feel with our body is the Patavi, Tejo and Vayu. So Patavi is felt as the hardness, Vayu is felt as the pushing nature, Tejo is felt as the heat or temperature, like the temperature, is heat or coldness. So we are unable to show what the heat is. It is sort of a sensation that we get. So this heat is causing that sensation that we feel. So we consider this has the quality of hotness. So some may try to equalize this Tejo Dhatu into energy. Seems like there is a slight possibility for that. Anyway, now according to Theravadians, if you consider about Rupa, this contains heat. Due to this heat, new Rupas are produced, and they also have heat. Due to that, new Rupas are produced. So this keeps on happening. Now, among all the Rupas in the world, most of the Kalapas in the entire world are produced by this Tejo Dhatu. So Rupa made out of Tejo are the most prominent in the entire universe according to the Theravada tradition. It is happening in the human body as well. Then Oja. The effects of Oja can be seen when we have food. We know that if we don't put food into our body, if we don't insert food or if we don't eat food, surely we would die sooner, right? That's obvious. And also we know when we get the food, our bodies get energized. So scientifically, this is produced by a sort of a chemical. If I remember EPT or some, there's a short name for that. That sort of thing is responsible for the production of energy in the human body. But according to the Theravadians, now this Oja, which is capable of producing energy, is found in all sort of Rupas. That's why someone can even eat something and still sustain, like even wood or something. Even some creatures can eat things that we are unable to eat. They are able to sustain by eating them. So this Oja can be found, a certain element can be found in the material stuff. So when they get into the body, they react with our Oja of our body and produces energy. So we call the Rupa which gives us the energy. Rupa which gives us the energy. So this Oja, while affecting the entire body, also produces a subtle Rupa which energizes our body and which can be obviously felt when we take some food while we are hungry. So when we are hungry, our bodies are weaker, but as soon as we insert food, we can see a huge difference in our body. And also after having a good meal, we get the energy. So this is how we normally explain. Now, bodies of human beings are affected by karma. Some material stuffs are produced by karma. The most bulk, the bulk of the rupas, quantitatively, the most number of rupas are produced by tejo dhatu. It's produced by heat. So that's, and then at the same time, the karma is affecting, and karma is producing a lesser portion of the rupas and a subtle type of a rupa. Then material mentalities also affect the rupa. That is why the body is capable, body just moves based on the intentions, or according to the intentions of the mind. And also when we have the food, it also affects the rupa. We can see great changes in our body, especially energizing when we consume food. The coessence of the human body is produced by tejo. The coessence of rupa is produced by tejo. At the same time, different causes are also contributing to the matter in our body. So this is a brief explanation. We shall go into detail when we come into these topics separately. So these are the 4 causes of origin of rupa. That has been explained in 2.154. Then we move on to 2.155. Based on these 4 major causes, matter is basically fourfold. Now the rupa that is produced by karma, rupa that is produced by karma. So karma is a cause. The rupa produced by karma is called karmaja. Karmaja rupa. So we have to add jayati, karmato jayati, produced by karma. Then the mentalities, we normally call it chitta. The rupa that is produced by chitta are called chittaja rupa, but this includes chitta and chetasika both. Then tejo dhatu is called utu, and synonym for tejo dhatu is utu. The rupa that is produced by utu is called utuja rupa. Just you need to add ja at the end, utuja rupa. Then oja is also called ahara. I think we study about this ahara. So this ahara, rupa produced by ahara is called aharaja. Aharaja rupa. So based on the 4 causes, the rupa is classified into 4 groups basically: kammaja, chittaja, utuja, aharaja. So numbers would be, there are 18 rupas produced by kamma, 15 rupas produced by chitta, 13 by utu, and 12 by ahara. This includes the anippana rupas as well. The non-concretely produced matter also are counted in this classification. Then based on now these rupas, all these rupas appear in clusters. That is also a very basic fundamental in the tradition. Always rupas appear in clusters. Now cluster of kammaja rupas. A cluster of kammaja rupas is called kammaja kalapa, right? Cluster of kammaja rupas is called kammaja kalapas. Cluster of chittaja rupas is called chittaja kalapas. I think I have given it in 2.156, right? 2.156. Rupa kalapas are also classified. Kalapas are also classified into 4 groups based on the major causes of origin of their constituting rupas. Kammaja kalapas are the clusters of rupa that are born due to past karma. So in number, there are 9 types of kalapas. 18 rupas, when they are grouped in different portions or different combinations, they are given different names. So there are 9 types of kalapas, kammaja kalapas. And in regard to chittaja kalapa means the kalapas produced by consciousness and mental factors, right? So there are 8 chittaja kalapas, 8. I think some of you have studied as 6 in the Abhidhammatta Sangaha. We can add 2 more according to the Visuddhimagga, right? So altogether, so the Paramattha Dipana recognize it as 8. We shall discuss about them when we come to Chittaja lesson. Then Utuja Kalapas, the cluster of Utuja Rupas, the material produced by Tejo Dhatu, their cluster is called Utuja Kalapas. So Utuja Kalapas are 4 in number. There are 4 Utuja Kalapas. Then Aharaja Kalapas, cluster of Aharaja Rupas, we have two types of kalapas. Though the number is 12 rupas, there are 12 rupas, clusters are just two types of clusters exist, right? So these are the main words that we should know. Kamma, Chitta, Utu and Ahara are the main causes. Then Rupa produced by Kamma is called Kammaja. Then clusters of these Kammaja Rupas, out of them we get Kammaja Kalapas. Then we have Chittaja Kalapa. Utuja Kalapas and Aharaja Kalapa. Keep this in mind. Please give attention that Ja has to be there. If you don't put Ja, we are talking about the cause. Kamma is the cause, Kammaja is something produced by the karma. Chitta is the cause, Chittaja is produced by Chitta. So likewise, please keep in mind the importance of Ja. If you don't use the Ja, you are referring to the cause, not to the Rupa. Right? Not to the Rupa. Now, there are some few fundamentals that I would like to discuss today about these Rupas. If you go to 2.157. 2.157. Any Rupa arises due to a single major cause. Any Rupa arises due to a single major cause. It means there are no Rupas that are directly produced by two or more major factors. So these are the major factors of Rupa, major causes I would call. Major causes of Rupa. Now, think about Patavi Dhatu. Patavi, hardness. Patavi is normally produced, for example, if you think karma produces Patavi. So this is the major cause of this Patavi. So we call Kammaja Patavi. We can call it Kammaja Patavi. Kammaja Patavi. There are no Rupas that are produced by two causes together. For example, Kamma and Chitta coming together and producing one Patavi. So there is no such a Rupa. Right? So when we are talking, there are some cases where two major causes are combining, but still we can recognize what is the most major cause or the most proximate cause. Right? So always in the classification, we have of a certain Rupa, we have only one major cause. We don't have two major causes. No, we cannot say this Patavi is produced by Chitta and Kamma together. Right? There are certain Rupas that are produced by together with two major causes, but still we have to recognize what is the most prominent. So there is only one prominent major cause. So always keep in mind, according to the tradition, Rupas fall into these categories: either Kammaja, Chittaja, Utuja, or Aharaja. The main classification. So there are no such a thing. So there is no such a thing that Rupa can be produced by two major causes. Always it is produced by one major cause. Then above fundamental applies to Kalapas as well. Even a Kalapa, for example, a unit is produced by one major cause. So there are no units that are produced by two major causes. Right? So then the next phenomenon is now within a Kalapa. Now this Kamma producing a Kalapa. Kammaja Kalapa we call. Right? By remind again, Kamma produces Kammaja Rupa and Kammaja Kalapa. Right? Kammaja Kalapa. So this is a Kammaja Kalapa. Even this, there is no such a thing called produced by Kamma and Chitta. We don't have such Kalapas. Kalapas are not produced together by two major causes. It's only one proximate major cause. Then Then the next point is, if you think about this as a Kalapa, now we have 8 Rupas, for instance. Right? We consider 9 Rupas. If you consider 9 Rupas, for example, Kalapa of 9 Rupas. Now, Another point is now what we discuss is a kalapa is produced by one major cause, the entire kalapa. At the same time, the rupas in a kalapa, all the rupas in a kalapa are produced by one major cause. It's not only a collective production. Now, someone may think like some rupas in a kalapa, can't they be produced? While some rupas are produced by kamma, can't it be that some other rupas in a kalapa be produced by chitta? No. Within a kalapa, all the rupas in a kalapa has the same origin. So therefore, all the rupas are produced by one major cause. All the rupas in a kalapa produced by one major cause. It is not possible that, for example, kamma produces 5 and chitta produces 4 of these 9. No, it's not possible. There is no such a kalapa like that. This is also a very basic fundamental of rupa. So any rupa is produced by one major cause. Any kalapa is produced by one major cause, and all the rupas in a kalapa are produced by one major cause. But we can observe a linear causation. For example, now think about a new kalapa, for example, born out of tejo dhatu in a kalapa, right? In a kalapa produced by karma. For example, this kammaja kalapa. Kamma is producing the kalapa, so this is a kammaja kalapa. Right? It's a kammaja kalapa. Tejo dhatu of this kalapa is producing a now new kalapa. So according to this proximate cause, this is produced by tejo dhatu. Tejo dhatu is utu. So any rupa produced by utu is called Utuja Kalapas, right? So then what happens here, this second kalapa has to be a Utuja Kalapa. It's a Utuja Kalapa. But if you think about the lineage, the generation, this kalapa would not have happened had there not been this kalapa. Should this kalapa not exist, right? This kalapa was produced by karma. So we can see major causes. Now this is Utu is the major cause of this. Utu is the major cause of this kalapa. Kamma is the major cause of the first kalapa. Now therefore, kamma is also very relevant for this second kalapa to happen. Is a cause. Kamma is now if you think about the second kalapa's cause is Utu, its cause is karma. Right? The lineage, the causal linear causation can be seen. So therefore, this second kalapa, being a Utuja Kalapa, can also be termed as kamma pacchaya. Kamma pacchaya Utuja Kalapa. Kamma pacchaya Utuja Kalapa. We shall discuss about them, but just I'm giving the basic fundamentals. We'll be discussing on them detailedly when we come to these lectures. Now, thing is, one major cause is producing rupa, one major cause is producing kalapas. All the rupas in one kalapa is produced by one major cause. At the same time, we can see a linear causation. So names are given regarding the linear causation has been taken into consideration while we name these kalapas, right? While we name these kalapas, that is also something you have to keep in mind. So I'll repeat again, this second kalapa is produced by Utu in a certain kalapa, Tejo Dhatu. So it's a Utuja Rupa. That kalapa, Tejo Dhatu, and the kalapa was produced by karma. So we can see the two major causes. The kamma produces one rupa, Tejo of that second rupa produces, Tejo or Utu of the second rupa, second kalapa produces a new kalapa. So the second kalapa has a linear relationship with karma, right? So linear causation can be seen. And there is another collective causation also is seen, collective causation. Now the very famous simile is the mansions, divine mansions. right? Okay, hope that is should be a better mansion than this according to tradition. The divine birth is just a room. So this divine mansion is categorized as Utuja Kalapas because they arise in the outside life. It's Kamaja Kalapas, Chittaja and Aharaja can be found only in the bodies of living beings. Mansion is not a part of the deity's life. It's not a part of his body. It's something that he uses. It's an external thing. So this Rupa has to be Utuja. Now there are small particles in these Rupas, subtle particles. So Utu is producing. Tejo Dhatu is responsible for this creation. Utu. Right? I'm unable to say what Utu is producing. Like, is the Utu in that location is producing? I'm not able to say that. What I can say is it's termed as Utu. Right? Otherwise, there can be a question now if a divine mansion suddenly appears here, for example. So, is the Rupas, the subtle Rupas in that position are creating new Rupas? Or is it that the new Utuja Rupas are newly created? So, then why they were called Utuja Rupas? Utuja means it has to be created by Tejo Dhatu in a previous Kalapa, right? So anyway, I'm not unable to say that. What the tradition says it's a Utuja Kalapa, Utuja Rupa. Then at the same time, to get a divine mansion like this, the person should have a relevant karma, right? Just out of nothing, it's not going to happen, these kind of appearances. So karma is also a vital factor. So collective causation is there. Karma is a major cause of origin of Rupa. Utu is a major cause of origin of Rupa. So in the beginning I mentioned there's only one cause. But here we can see collective causes. But the tradition gives priority to one of them. It doesn't prioritize both at the same level. Either karma or either Utu has to be prioritized in this case. Now in this case, Utu is given the priority. Karma is secondary. Karma was very relevant for that. If the karma was not there, the mansion would not have happened. But the proximate cause, the most closest for their arising is Utu. So therefore these Rupas, the divine mansions, are classified under Utuja Rupas. But their karma, the support given by karma was very vital. If there was no karma, it's not that suddenly a divine mansion is going to happen out of nothing. If karma was not relevant, what is the phenomenon which prevents from divine mansion is appearing here and there all the time? So karma was very vital in that case. So we cannot exclude the support given by karma. So instead of saying kammaja utuja, we say kamma pachya utuja. Utuja Kalapas here, or we can call Rupas as well, right? Why was that? So Utuja shows that this is the proximate cause. Kamapachya shows this is we can call subordinate or secondary, but still it's a very vital major cause, but the proximity was given to Utu, right? So therefore the collective causation can also be seen, but the tradition recognizes one out of them as the major cause, Yeah, these are the 5 fundamentals that I would like to discuss. Any Rupa, so I'll conclude before we go into explain what the Santati is. Any Rupa is produced by one major cause, right? And that applies to Kalapas as well. So any Rupa is produced by one major cause, Kalapa is produced by one major cause, and all the Rupas in that Kalapa are produced by one major cause. It's not that some Rupas in a Kalapa being produced by, while some Rupas in a Kalapa is being produced by one cause, the others are produced by another cause. No. So all collectively are produced by one cause. Then we can see the linear causation in the Kalapa. So while we name them, we have to keep in mind the linear causation is also considered, right? So instance, the Tejo Dhatu, which is the Utu in a Kalapa, produce a new Kalapa. If that Utu has been produced by Kamma, so the second kalapa is also has a certain relationship with karma. So the second kalapa can be named. First kalapa is a kammaja kalapa, second is a utuja kalapa, but at the same time the second can be also called kamma pacca utuja due to its linear relationship with the karma. Then the collective causation is also found in these rupas, but the tradition, now for instance the divine mansions produced to get by which are utuja rupas with the support of karma, but the tradition gives priority to one of them. So in this case, Tejo Dhatu gets the priority. So these rupas in the divine mansion are Utuja rupas actually. Utuja rupas. But due to the support given by karma, we cannot exclude the support given by karma. So these rupas are called Kamma Pacca Utuja Kalapas. Right? Then we move on to generation of kalapas. Tomorrow I shall be discussing about these generations, which will be a quite interesting lecture, which is also supportive to your vipassana meditation. There are few types of generations, 4 types of generations with regard to rupa. Adda santati, we call 4 types of pachupanna. Adda pachupanna, santati pachupanna, kana pachupanna, and also samaya pachupanna. Out of them, 3 are generations, 1 are just momentary existence of kalapas. Now, generation of kalapas is called the Rupa Santati. Rupa Santati. Generation of kalapas. One kalapa arises, passes away. So while it is during its existence, another kalapa arises, passes away. So likewise, this keeps on happening. Santatis can be found in Kammaja Kalapas, among Kammaja Kalapas, Utuja Kalapas, Chittaja and Aharaja Kalapas. I haven't given you the number because at the end of these lectures, you will find we can have the Kammaja Santati, number of Santatis is quite flexible. Sometimes we may include some Santatis or we may sometimes exclude some Santatis because there are some subdivisions of Santatis, especially when we come to the generation of sounds and so forth. And also there are arguments within the commentaries, how the generation has been explained. So it's a little bit complicated. So that's why I didn't give you the number. Roughly it is 25, 24, something around that. Right? The Santati number is. We have 9th Kammaja Santati, which is concretely explained, and the other Santatis, especially Utuja Santatis and Chittaja Santatis, we may be due to the existence of sound, there can be some slight changes. So generation of, now we may draw it like, now this is how it happens, while now in the mental Santatis, the generation of mentalities, after the first mentality has passed away, the second would arise. Regarding the Rupa is slightly different. The second Rupa arises while the first Rupa is still existing, while it is still existing, right? And there are another 2 types of Santatis in regard to Rupa. One is the Rupa is produced by some other causes, not related to the previous Kalapas. Another Santati is the following Rupas are produced by the first Kalapa. So we can see this. Now these are Utuja and Aharaja Santatis. Chittaja and Kammaja Santati, the cause is apart from, outside the Kalapa. Right? So, but in both the cases, while the previous Rupa is still existing, the secondary, the following Rupas would appear, unlike the mentalities. In mentalities, no 2 mentalities can exist at the same time in a mind stream. Right? So, yeah, generation of Rupas, they keep on happening during the course of the Rupa. So, now we discussed about the causes of Rupa, Kamma, Chitta, Utu, Ahara. Then based on these causes, there are 4 types of Rupas, Kammaja, Chittaja, Utuja and Aharaja Rupas. Yeah, and then the Kalapas are also classified into 4. They are clusters and they are generations. Kammaja Santati, I don't have space to write, Kammaja Santati, Chittaja Santati, Utuja Santati and Aharaja Santati. These Santatis also has one major cause. Santatis also have one major cause. Kammaja Santatis are produced by Kamma, Utuja by Utu, Chittaja by Chitta, Aharaja by Ahara. Right? So these are the 4 main aspects that I would like to discuss. So now tomorrow I shall be explaining about 4 types of Pachupanna related to the Santati. Then I move on to explain Kammaja Rupa. So when I explain Kammaja Rupa, I go under few headings. First explain what is the Kamma which produces Rupa. Then Kammaja Kalapas, Kammaja Rupas. Kammaja Kalapas, Kammaja Rupas in brief, Kammaja Kalapas. Then Kammaja Santatis. Then move on to explain each and every Kammaja Rupa separately. Then finally we move on to explanation called Rupas affected by karma, not produced, affected by karma. Then we move on to the lesson of Chitta Rupas. Yeah. So these are very important. So this shows that what does this lesson gives us, the explanation. Now Rupa is not a one thing. It's a combination of clusters. And even their origin, they can be even still divided, further divided based on their origin. Not all the Rupas, or not all the clusters in a human body is produced by the same cause even. Some are produced by karma, some are produced by consciousness, some are produced by the element of heat or coldness or sand, some are produced by the food that we eat, the nutriment. So it shows that, so when we look into the body in terms of the origin of the Rupas as well, so we can easily get rid of the idea of self-view because it's not one thing. So it's a combination of Rupas, and also these Rupas are produced by different causes. So it shows that if the causes are different, surely the Rupas are not the same. And it shows that it is the combination of realities. And these, if something is produced by a cause, newly produced by cause, then that cannot be a self. That cannot be a self. And also, when we keep on doing these lectures, we get the insight that Rupa exists in units, as we have discussed, the Kalapas, and these Kalapas exist in generations. So the idea of impermanence would also be increased when we think about rising and falling of Rupa in terms of generations. We may not talk about Santati and Sarira because they are not that much relevant to these causes, these lessons. So when we keep on looking into these topics with such insightful thought mindset, our insight, knowledge in insight, understanding about the Vipassana would surely increase. Yeah. So that would be the lecture today. I open the forum for the Q&A. Yes, I open the forum for the Q&A session.
So the first question is we know that for the majority of human beings, oxygen is like crucial, right? How should we understand oxygen in terms of, can we see it as a kind of ahara?
Normally, we would put it into as utu. But it's another good question. But the tradition never says that what we breathe is food. It shows that the oxygen also gives us some energy when we breathe in. I would prefer to put it into Utuja process of Utu, because it's not only the food, it's not only the nutriment that is energizing our body, because as we know, our bodies grow due to the Utuja Rupas, the transformation of the Utuja Rupa in the food into body particles. The Ahara Rupa is energizing our body. So, but we cannot completely get rid of that idea that can't oxygen be supporting the body in terms of ahara by energizing the cells and all. Possibility is there, it seems. At the same time, we can also think about it as a Utuja process as well, which is also found in the trees. It can be both, but at the moment I prefer to go into the Utuja process.
So how are we going to incorporate that into the fact that we know that the breathing in and out, that is the Chitta Rupa?
Yeah, that's another topic. Now, if you go into Chittaja, I'll be discussing about this matter when we come to the Chittaja, about breathing, how the tradition explains this. Now, there are a lot of things open to debate when we say what the tradition says. Normally, the breathing that goes in is considered Chittaja Rupa, and which in breath and out breath is considered Chittaja Rupa. When it comes out, it becomes Utuja Rupa according to that. There can be a lot of questions can be asked then, because if it's just Chittaja Rupa, we will be able to breathe without air, just with our mind. And the next thing is, another point that we can consider is the movement of our body. Movement is happening as a natural process, expanding and shrinking, falling back, falling down of the body. So it's another way to look into breathing, but it's a fact that is also, even as I remember, the traditions explains that what we are breathing is from the air comes from outside. That's why we can even smell the smell of something which is outside. So with regard to Chittaja, I'll be discussing about this point in taking an entire lecture, how the tradition explains about this breathing and Chittaja, the relationship of Chittaja Rupas.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Right, sorry.
So the next question is regarding so you have the two kind of categories. One of them is the linear causation, right? And you said that according to that, we can say that there is a thing which can be called Kammaja Pacchaya Utuja Rupa, right? Which means that Rupa is produced by Utu, and that Utu, we can say it was produced by Kamma, right? So that is one category. Another one is that you talked about the corrective causes. And in there we also have the term Kammaja Utuja Rupa. So, yes. So the Pacchaya, the terminology Pacchaya in those two terms should be different, right, Bhante?
Yes, different. The explanation would be, first Pacchaya is a lineage Pacchaya, second is a collectively supporting at the same time. They have two different explanations. Now, Pacchaya means supporting factor. In the first explanation, that supporting factor, that supporting Kamma Pacchaya Utuja. Utu, the Rupas that have been supported by karma, that have the support of karma. So that support is, in the first explanation, that support is producing the cause. In the second explanation, that is directly supporting.
Okay, but then for the collective causes, that Rupa is Utuja Rupa, not Kammaja Rupa.
Yeah, it's Utuja Rupa, yes. But supported by that, Utu cannot produce it by itself alone. It has to be supported by karma.
Right.
We have this same phenomenon when we create objects by our psychic powers. When people create objects by psychic powers, that's called Chitta Pacchaya Utuja. In the outside, like if someone creates an animal here, elephant or something, so the mind is causing that Utuja Rupas to happen. So it would have not happened, should the Abhinya Chitta didn't arise.
Right. Okay, thank you, Bhante. Sadhu. And the next question is, Bhante, do our bodies contain Utuja Rupa produced using external tejo?
Yes, there are two types of Utuja Rupas. Utuja, will come into this topic when we discuss the Utuja Rupa, most probably the next semester. There are two types of Utuja, that is the core essence of our body, and which is produced due to the external causes. The Utuja Rupas of the core essence may last for years. Even our generation of Utuja Rupas may last for years, even after we are dead. But the Utuja Rupas produced by the external causes may last for, if my memory was correct, 3 generations only, 2 or 3 generations. So they may affect the body and change the level of body, change nature of the body of the core essence, but the generations produced by the external causes, the direct generations, would last only for few moments. But due to their effect, the core essence may change slightly. there is no such a huge change happening in the core essence. So there are two types of Utuja Rupas. We call Utu Samagami Utu. This is the term for this. Utu Samagami Utu. So Utu Samagami Utu, you can find this in the Abhidhamma commentary. Pakinaka Kata in the Rupa sector of Dhammasangani Attakatha. This has been explained, and the Mula Tika also further explains this. But when you go into Visuddhimagga, you find the main essence that the Utuja Rupas can last for generations, last for years. So that's the core essence of our body. So when we get into an air-conditioned room, or when we take a bath, some generations are happening while we are in contact with the outside Uddu. That would last for few generations only.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. In fact, I have a follow-up question based on that question. So you said that two kinds of Utuja Rupa. One of them only lasts for a few generations. The other one is going to last, like we can say, forever.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we know that for deities, when they die, the body is going to disappear. So they don't have the first kind of Utuja Rupa.
According to Venerable Lady Sayadaw, their proportion of their Kammaja and Chittaja Kammaja is higher. It's very higher. I don't know what happens to their Utuja Rupas. It says that it may last for few generations after their death, few moments, and it would suddenly disappear. So surely the core essence of human and animals and these deities are quite different. So that's why such skeletons and all these are not left over after they die. So therefore, it's another very good question. But somehow their core essence would not last as that of ours. Maybe it's the core is different from us.
Yes.
And also with this core Utuja, I would call core Utuja, we have few channels how the Rupa is gained. According to Lady Sayadaw, some are gained by Mata Pitu, mother's body, and some from father's body. We call it Yoni Niyama. And also by food gained while in the womb, food while we are in the mother's womb, then the food that we eat. So these are the four main streams, ways that we get this core essence build up. So one can also may include oxygen, but I'm not sure whether that oxygen is causing for the growth of our body. But these are the four main causes. When we look into the literature, we can have evidences about how this core essence is growing. Utu Samagame Utu is a different type of Utu, only the Utu that arises while we get exposed to certain weather conditions.
Okay, thank you, Bhante. The next question is, Bhante, where is to get the list of those 18 Kammaja Rupas, 15 Chittaja Rupas, and so on?
I shall give you next week, sure.
Okay, thank you, Bhante.
Otherwise, you can look into a manual of Abhidhamma by Bhikku Bodhi, comprehensive manual, right, of Abhidhamma and Bhikku Bodhi.
Yes, comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma.
Yes. So chapter 6, right? Yeah.
Yes, this is chapter 6. Okay, thank you, Bhante. Please go ahead, Sayali.
Good morning, Bhante.
Good morning, Saleh.
Yeah, actually, one of my questions already asked by Ryan, so regarding the devas. But that is also applied to the beings who are reborn in a hell, right?
Hell, yeah. Hell, Peta also. Peta, hell, deity, Brahma, all. Except human and animal.
Yeah. So this theory also applies to the beings who are in the Niraya?
Yes.
And the death moment?
Yes.
After their death?
Yeah. Their bodies are not cremated or lying down. But there's another, to my memory, I have read, as mentioned in Milinda Panya, some demons or some creatures, when they die, their bodies appear as scorpions or some sort of creatures who are dead. I don't know what was that reference was. I have read, and some people have told me even. So when certain demons die, as explained by Venerable Nagasena, their bodies transfer into some animals and they appear like that. I have read somewhere, I'm not, if my memory was correct, there is such an idea. So I'm not sure what that says is, but normally when the Petas, hell beings, deities and Brahmas die, their bodies completely vanish and disappear.
So, but my next question is, in the beginning of the class, you said that they call the random phenomena.
Random mutation by evolution. Theory of evolution.
Okay, evolution regarding the DNA. What I remember, that one scientist said, like this type of transformation, they can do many generations. So, for example, like the mouse, even the mouse just born, his mother has never taught him, oh, you should avoid the cat because the cat will eat you. But since he was born, he had a memory, he had that type of sense, oh, I should avoid the cat. So the scientists, they did this type of research. They said that type of we call DNA or gene. So they can transfer from the many generations. This is their ancestors and the latest generation. So, but you said that we call Dharma, right?
No. I'm not saying all the mutation is due to karma. I'm not saying all the mutation is due to karma. There is a phenomenon called yoni niyama. That due to this yoni niyama, most of the traits of the parents are transferred to the offspring. That is a natural process which is happening. But the mutation means a change. Like suddenly, for example, if you think about the birds from the same parents which had a short beak, there can be offsprings. Most would be short beaked, but some would have a long beak. But then their offsprings would get that trait, and some of them would get short beaks as well. Then what happens? Due to the condition, environmental condition, if the environmental condition suits the long beaks over the short beaks, the short beaks would go into extinction, while the long beaks beak birds would sustain. So this mutation happens randomly according to the evolution, theory of evolution. But I wanted to say, not all the mutations, but some mutations, that's what I want to express. Actually, some mutations can be attributed to karma according to Theravada tradition. Otherwise, the basic features like the ability to fly, the appearance of a cat. Now, even a bodhisattva becomes a cat, he'll still have the figure of a cat, how much merit he has done. He cannot have the appearance of a human being, right? So the yoni niyama confines their abilities and capacities and appearances to a certain range. Within that range, there can be changes. Physical and mental changes. Some we attribute to karma. Some can be even just random. That's the point that I wanted to emphasize. As you said, there have been some experiments. Now you know that bird who makes the very beautiful nest. We call in Sinhala is Vadu Kurulla. The Carpenter Bird, if you translate it, like which makes a nest, sort of like this kind of a nest, right? And it goes from here, and so they have done an experiment which I have heard. They tested for 7 generations of birds, caught them, and they made them to live in cages, and they didn't have opportunity to make any nest like that. So the 7th generation was released, and they track it says that the 7th generation birds were able to make the nests in the same manner their forefathers did. So up to 7 generations, they had no experience of making such a nest. But the 7th generation could make it similar to their ancestors. So as you said, the rats are afraid of mice. And even some lizards, when they come out, lizards are, there are documentaries which say that some lizards, as soon as they come out and they are supposed to go into a rocky area in close seas, so snakes are just waiting to catch them. As soon as they see the snake, they immediately run away. They never think this is my mother or this can be my friend. So instincts are there. So as you said, some sort of traits are transferred from parents to offsprings. That's for sure. That's for sure. So what I said was the mutations, certain changes happens randomly according to the science, but some mutations we can attribute to karma according to Theravada, and we do attribute it to it. Now think about a person without an eye, born with an eye. It's a sort of a mutation. So but we may call it that past karma has affected his body, right? So that's what I wanted to emphasize.
Oh, okay. So that is some parts, like you said, mutation. So we cannot match with the Buddha's teaching, right? With the 4 conditions.
Yes. Some should be applied to karma according to Buddha's teachings. Some can be just natural phenomena.
So another question, buddy.
Yeah.
So what is the karma pacaya utuja? What is the difference between the karma pacaya utuja and the karma pacaya utu samutthana?
Karma pacaya utu samutthana. We shall discuss about this point. At the moment, directly I don't recall it. Already I have made the handout. I shall be discussing about this when it comes to utu at the end of the Kammaja Rupas as well. Karma pacaya utu samutthana, as I remember, Karma pacaya utu samutthana was the first linear relationship, like Utuja Rupa produced by Tejo Dhatu in a Kammaja Kalapa. The first one is equal to Kamma. First Karma pacaya Utuja is equal to Karma pacaya utu samutthana.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pandit.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Pandit. Sadhu.
So we can call it a day. Yeah, thank you for listening. Tomorrow we shall discuss about 4 types of Pachuppanna which relate to Kammaja, Rupa Santati. Okay, so thank you for listening. May all these merits, may we'll be able to attain nirvana as quick as possible, and also would like to make a wish that may the peace come to the world at the end of these useless conflicts. Yeah. And may this merit helps to sustain the Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.